All right, so I recorded this video last night, but I slept on it. I made some notes. I was freestyling last night. I actually took the time to write some notes. And I decided, you know what? I feel like I want to get my thoughts out and get my thoughts a little bit more clear because I feel like this is a good conversation to have. So, to give context to the people, there was a video on this YouTube channel, Poddy Mouth. Don from Poddy Mouth took a clip from a larger podcast, and he talked about how, is there a shift in the culture? He was actually reacting to What's the Dirt, and as much as I hate to admit it, I actually agree with What's the Dirt, and I agree with Dom's take on that topic of a shift. I've been pushing back on that narrative for months now. There's no shift. Kendrick is just up right now, and if you're Kendrick adjacent, you up right now. Clips had an immaculate rollout for Let God Sort Them Out. They were sitting down, doing interviews here, doing colors and Tiny Desk. They were doing lyric breakdowns, and it was a multi-week rollout with 2 singles that dropped, controversy, all that other stuff. All of that was done like they used to do 20 years ago. And it definitely contributed to the high first week sales that they got. And a lot of the praise and the conversation is around this album. Not to mention that it's a quality album, but a lot of people were curious to hear what the Chains and Whips verse from Kendrick sounded like. I feel like they were going to be successful, but people really paid closer attention because Kendrick was involved. Then you got people like Doechii, and Doechii is, again, super talented, was going to get there anyway, but she does have the machine behind her from TDE. TDE is Kendrick affiliated, so there's the Kendrick connection there. And the only other person I could think of is Tyler, and Tyler been Tyler. Even before there was any conversation about a shift, he's been this guy moving the culture, moving the needle with his musical projects since Flower Boy. Even before that, if you were an old school Odd Future fan. But yeah, those shock raps wasn't really penetrating the mainstream like Flower Boy and beyond. And I think there's so many other artists that should be getting highlighted. Bodie James, Mike, Navy Blue, even Earl. I don't think they get as much attention. And I feel like if there really was a shift, people would be interested to go see those artists or listen to those artists and seek them out. So I do agree with that. But there was a particular part of the video at about 10:55. He said,
the most culturally relevant album in hip hop of the year should not be an album that was made by a 48-year-old and a 50-year-old.
Now, he did preface that by he said, he meant it with love.
Truly, I mean this lovingly.
I commented on it and I said, basically, we referenced the 2016 Lil Uzi Vert interview during the video. He said about how that was a touch point where you could really see the divide in hip hop.
If you pull out one of them old beats, I'm not rapping on.
Start a real divide between guys that were pro Uzi, Yachty, 21 Savage, that 2016 XXL freshman class, and then the people that were just this is not hip hop, and they were just adamantly against it. I would kind of disagree with that in general, knowing history, but that was kind of the point. And I basically said when Yachty made the statement that he made to Ebro, that was him just giving a middle finger to culture. Now, I will say I probably could have added a little bit more nuance. First and foremost, when I said that, I was not taking a shot at Uzi. I was not taking a shot at Yachty. I may have not liked it at the time, but I understood. I understood why they made the statements that they made, why they were dissing Big and Pac, and why they were refusing to rap over DJ Premier and these old beats, these old head beats. I understood why, because they were being unfairly held to a standard of being like Big and Pac, and that was not the kind of music they were making. They didn't have to be Big and Pac, but guys like Ebro, guys like Joe Budden, all these people were trying to hold them to that narrative.
Tell me what you want from hip hop.
I don't know. I mean,
you don't think that's a question you should answer at some point?
What do I want from hip hop?
Or are you leaving all of this to QC to figure out?
Nah, I mean, I'm making music, bro. I'm just having fun.
But I understood why they had that visceral response. First off, you keep calling me this entitled old head.
You fucking selfish old head.
We not 4 years apart. We would have been in school around the same time. So I was there and I watched the hate that the 2016 Cypher got. And like I said, it was unfair. There was a lot of unfair hate given to these guys. And I was one of those, I will admit, I was one of those purists that just was on social media bagging on them dudes hard. Like, oh man, this is whack. This is this is that. But crazy enough, my pops was the one that pulled me to the side and reminded me that when I was a kid, even beyond like what was popular at the time, like when I was a kid first getting into hip hop, I was always drawn to the most eclectic, weird, left field hip hop. And I would discover it. I would either discover it going through my dad's music or downloading it from like Dat Piff and really like enjoying it. And I would run back to my homies and I'd run back to my brothers and I would try to play it for them and be like, yo, man, this is gonna blow their mind. Like, I'm thinking that I'm so excited to share this. And I remember like watching their faces like scrunch up in real time and them looking at me and going, what the fuck is this? Like, I'm talking about clipping. I'm talking about JPEG Mafia. I'm talking about like, you know, damn, I had somebody in my mind. Oh, Black Milk, clipping. You know, these artists that regardless of when they came out, they were not going to penetrate the mainstream to people who was listening to Thug and Future and Uzi and Yachty at the time. They were not going to listen to that. And they looked at me crazy. So I understood what that felt like. And I decided at that point on, I wasn't going to just talk about artists I didn't like. If I didn't like them, I just would just let it be. Because, it may not be for me, but somebody likes it. They're on the XXL freshman list because somebody likes it and they got enough buzz and they got enough of a fan base going that they got on these radars. So somebody fuck with them. And I don't want to be that guy to put them down the way people put down my favorite music. And I think maybe that was kind of the sentiment, because despite the hate that the guy from the 2016 Cypher or the 2016 XXL got, because you mentioned that was the moment where you started like really taking up for the young guys. You started to really advocate for these young dudes coming up today because of the hate that the 2016 guys got. Despite the hate, despite all these people trying to say that they were not hip hop, they were still successful. Lil Yachty is secretly one of the most influential guys in hip hop right now, in the culture right now, whether it comes with fashion, writing for other artists, producing for other artists. He even has his own critically acclaimed album that even his biggest haters and detractors had to stand up and take notice. Kodak Black is all over Kendrick Lamar's Grammy-winning comeback album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. And he's getting a lot of recognition and praise for that, despite the hate that he got. 21 Savage is a Grammy-winning artist now and damn near a respected lyricist at this point. His improvement as an MC has been highlighted. Like if people would have gotten their way in 2016, he would have been thrown away and we would have never got his ascent. Lil Uzi Vert in 2023, the 50th year anniversary of hip hop, no less. Lil Uzi Vert in 2023, on the 50th anniversary of hip hop, no less. He has the first #1 album of the year for the genre. So despite the hate, despite them feeling like they were being held back or trying to be put in a box and held to a certain standard, they still succeeded. And if these guys out now that you are advocating for are that great, they will too. But that's on them. And that's on y'all. I think that's my biggest gripe with this whole thing. It's not just the fact that, you know, you call me an old head and you compared purists to the MAGA cult, which I find crazy.
Y'all get off in the comment section sometimes. The same way that MAGA think that creating a white ethno state is the best way to keep America pure is how y'all feel about hip hop.
It's not just that. I think it's the fact that you are looking for the same people that you are disrespecting to acknowledge you. Because it's not just that you want these guys to be covered and talked about more on these established hip hop platforms. You want them to be praised, but you don't want them to be criticized. And that's just not how art works. I think art of all kinds should exist, except for AI art. I think art of all kinds should exist, even if it's not for me. But if I can't be critical about it, I'm not going to talk about it. In the same way I said, I'm not going to talk about artists I don't like. and put them down, I'm just not going to pay them any attention in general. I'm gonna just let y'all do your thing. And I think that's the part that you don't understand. I think that was the mindset adopted to people after that era. Like, I think it's not hate, it's apathy. Like, I think people are apathetic to your cause. Like, they're apathetic to the new sound. I see a lot of time, like anytime Playboi Carti puts out an album, puts out a song, and people are discussing it, I find it hilarious. I remember when his I Am Music album came out, and Torre from Rap Latte, the guys on the Joe Budden podcast panel, and I think DJ Head on his show, and Elliot Wilson, all had the same kind of reaction. Even Jeremy Heck, who is around our age, all said the same thing. I'm old, I don't get it, but y'all do your thing. And that was it. That was the extent of the conversation. The conversation was more about Kendrick and his verse on the album and his inclusion on the album in general. It was more about that. That was the more dominant conversation coming out of those spaces. And it's really because they're just kind of like, I mean, the kids like it. The kids like it. I don't get it, but it ain't for me. And they keep it pushing. That's apathy. That's not hate. They're not covering these guys out of apathy, not hate. And that bothers you. But then when Ebro was criticizing Lil Yachty and criticizing Lil Uzi Vert and was saying this ain't hip hop, y'all were upset because y'all want the praise. Y'all want the acknowledgement. I remember in 2022, people were upset that Killer Mike won the Grammy for Best Rap Album. He won 3 Grammys that night. He basically swept the rap category. He won all of them. But that one in particular upset people because people felt like Travis Scott should have got it. But I couldn't help but to think, because I was happy. Michael was my favorite album that year. Just saying. But all I kept thinking about was how I thought we didn't care about the Grammys. It's like, and that's not just this generation. That's everybody. It's like everybody dismisses the validation of the Grammys until their favorite artists don't win. But I just found that one particularly hilarious. Like, because I remember advocating for artists like Killer Mike to win Grammys and be awarded and be acknowledged for years. And he finally got it with this album. And he was met with hate because y'all are basically saying the same thing that we saying. It's nothing new. Like, this is nothing new. Like, this generation is not special in that regard. From the beginning of time, from the beginning of hip hop, the generation before always hated and didn't understand what the current generation was doing. When hip hop was invented, they were looping records and rappers would rap over the breakbeat from soul records from a decade prior. And their parents was like, that's not music, that's noise. The 80s to the 90s, oh man, what those guys are not doing, that's not hip hop. They talking about selling drugs, they're talking about violence, they're talking about this, that, and the third. It's too dark. That's not really hip hop. 90s to the 2000s, what are those guys doing? Like, you know, they're just too shiny. Like, they're too consumed with materialism and consumerism and like all this other stuff, tricking. Like, what happened to the streets? What happened to the grimy stuff? And so on and so forth. Ice-T dissing Soulja Boy. Everybody using autotune and Jay-Z doing Death of Autotune to diss that. So on and so forth. People hated Future. People hated Gucci. New York hated the South. New York hated the West. The West hated the South. There's always going to be hate. There's always going to be hate. That is nothing new. And like you said, they don't need to know my hip hop.
Fuck your version of hip hop.
Okay, cool. Then don't look for our acknowledgement. The same hip hop you said fuck you to is not covering your shit. And they're not looking for you. They're sticking with the 40-year-old rappers because whenever they have any type of criticism for y'all, we're told, oh, you're old, you're out of touch, you shouldn't even listen. And they said, you're right, I'm not listening. Like, I think about Anthony Fantano. Anthony Fantano, for all his faults, like, will give you a very detailed 20-minute review of an album. Like, he'll review a Destroy Lonely or Ken Carson, and he'll give it a 2. But he'll give you in great detail why he felt that way. Not to mention it's just the man's opinion, but he'll give you a very detailed explanation why. It's not just this shit is whack, I don't fuck with it. It's a very detailed review of why he doesn't like it. And all the comments are just filled with, he's old, he's out of touch, he don't understand this culture, he shouldn't even be listening. And that's the response. Cool, we won't. We'll stick to the 40 and 50-year-old rappers we know. And that's why they're topping the charts. I just saw an article where they said only 14 albums at the time, I think it was like in June, only 14 albums was in the top 100 of Billboard all year. The lowest it had been for almost a decade, maybe even 2 decades. And I don't like using charts and numbers because that don't really dictate shit to me when it comes to art. But like, that is a clear metric that you can see where there's not even a passing interest in a lot of the artists that are out right now. And why is that? Is it just because the established media entities are not highlighting these guys? Or is it that you guys are not highlighting them? Like I mentioned Double XL, and my biggest criticism with them is that they have not updated the format. But one of the things that was very apparent to me, and it wasn't just that the bars were not my taste. I'll just say that. The bars was not my taste. Not that the flows and how they rode the beat are not that good. It was really the fact that outside of N, everybody looked like they didn't want to be there. And that always puzzles me because you can turn down the Double XL freshman cover if you don't want to be on it. There's plenty of artists over the years that have turned that down. They have turned that opportunity down. But you said yes. You said yes, and you get up there, and regardless of how I felt about the bars and the flow and all that other stuff, you got to at least feel like you want to be there and make people feel like you want to be there, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't want to be there and it's clear and apparent to me over the screen and this is my first introduction to you, then I won't care. That's just what it is. And those particular artists may not be the artists that you're mentioning and you're talking about highlighting. But that's the new crop and batch that have been put on this platform. And this is the result. A lot of people are just laughing, calling it the worst cypher ever, all this other stuff. I feel like Double XL has been trying to recapture the magic of 2016, and that just ain't gonna happen. And you know what a big difference between that class, the blog era, that a lot of people feel like that the millennials just romanticize, or all the 90s and all the other stuff have in common, is that people stepped up in the media space to make sure these guys got highlighted. They didn't wait for established publications, established media outlets to highlight these artists. They felt like they were not getting shine, so they highlighted them. The Source magazine, Double XL, King magazine, all those magazines from the 90s and early 2000s all came together because the artists that were in hip hop didn't have a publication of their own where they got highlighted. And what was going on in the hip hop space was not being recognized. The blog era came about because of that. 2 Dope Boys, like all these other like blogs from that time period, Dat Piff, all these places came together because they didn't see the artists that they felt like should get shine in the mainstream, on the radio, on BET, on MTV. They didn't see them. So they created their own space on the internet to highlight those artists. They gave us Drake. They gave us Crit. They gave us Kendrick. They gave us Mick Jenkins. They gave us Charles Hamilton, Lupe Fiasco. Like all of those guys came up through the blog era when traditional media was not fucking with them. And even the 2016 class, they were all over SoundCloud. They got big on SoundCloud. Hot 97 wasn't playing them. The Power 105, The Breakfast Club was not playing them. Big Boy's radio show was not playing them. But they built a cult fan base online thanks to social media and thanks to SoundCloud. They didn't wait on traditional media. And most of the time, the traditional media catches up because of the buzz that is generated by those people who stepped up and got into the media space. So I think your real beef ain't with Elliott Wilson. Your real beef ain't with B-Dot. It ain't with Joe Budden. It ain't with Complex. It ain't with Double XL. Your real beef is with the guys, or the lack of guys, that have created space and amplified these new artists.
No young people are running outlets.
Like you talked about the Jimmy Legacy album, Black British Music. I had never heard of that guy, and I downloaded that album because of your recommendation, and I like it. Like Tyker Driver 91, Son, New David Bowie, Father, like that's off my first listen. Those are the songs that really stuck out to me, and I really like it. I actually really like a lot of British artists. Sampha and Little Sims particularly, I've been highlighting for years. And Bob, I don't want to say it wrong, but Bob Vylan, like I listened to their album because of their stance they took against Palestine and all of that drama that came about. And now Humble as the Sun It's one of my favorite songs. One of the songs that I play every morning when I wake up in the morning. So hearing that album, I was like, yo, this is dope. And I appreciate that. Do more of that. Highlight these artists. Be the change you want to see. Because you can't just wait around for these established platforms that already have their biases. They already have their favorites. They have their era that they're champion. Now it's your turn. You even highlighted one creator on your original video. And you said,
It's a drama channel. There it is.
if that's the best you got, then there's no wonder these guys aren't being highlighted for their music. Like, don't talk to me. Don't talk to Elliott Wilson. Don't talk to B-Dot. Don't talk to Joe Budden. Talk to Kai Cenat. Talk to DJ Academics. Talk to XQC. Talk to What's the Dirt. Talk to them. Because like every other generation before them, like every generation before you, before me, they all had to do it themselves. Now it's your turn. You either gonna get there doing it yourself or it's not gonna happen. You said, you named this video, Hip Hop Dies With You. Talking about us, no, it dies with you. Our hip hop is still thriving. And if this generation does not step up, both in the media space and artistically, then I guess it has to go. It's not on us, it's on you. So act like it.